Hi,
Hello.
Lucy.
Hi, Bob.
How are you?
I'm very well, thank you.
Well,
Very,
good.
very
Let
well
me
indeed.
introduce us. I'm Robert Wright of The Wright Show, which is on both Meaning of Life TV and sometimes on Blogging Heads TV. And you are Lucy Lawless, famous
Well,
actor.
I like the little push you gave that.
Well, you deserve it. I'm sure I didn't do you justice with that little push.
Sure.
You are perhaps originally best known as Xena Warrior Princess.
To this day, best
You're not
known
in your
as.
Xena garb. I'm a little disappointed that you didn't show up in Xena garb.
Oh, I'm wearing it.
It's under
100%.
okay. Well, that's good for me to know. That'll give me a little charge as we are having this conversation. Um, but since then, you have remained very active. Well, as an activist, but also as an actor. You continue to do a ton of stuff. You know what I just found out? You know, my wife and I were late to discover Parks and Recreation, so we're only on season 3. But I am told that when we get to season 5.
Oh, very
You
exciting.
will
Something
show
really good
up and become a
happens.
regular presence on the show as the love interest of one of the sexiest men in all of Pawnee.
It's true. It's true. Yes, I did a season of that, but unfortunately, as I live in New Zealand and was working on other shows, I'm in it a little bit. I'm in it. It was a great pleasure to be part of it.
Yeah. Well, a lot of like big names come and go on that show. You know,
Yeah.
uh,
I was
it's
lucky to be included. It was nice.
well, and they were lucky to have you. So I'm looking
And you know
forward to
what?
that.
They're as nice. These people are as good and as nice and as fun as you would dream. Very often people are quite disappointing in real life, but that whole gang is they're just superb, excellent people.
Well, you've gone partway to answering the question on everyone's mind. What is the real Ron Swanson like?
Gigglesome,
You mean this is the actor himself is?
yes, very liberal. Um, yeah, a really caring, connected human being who does a lot of good in his community, is mad about his wife. They have one of those suspiciously tight relationships.
Yeah, I know about those.
But I think they mean it. You know, they're not kidding. Nick and Megan Mullally are great friends and lovers and colleagues. And anyway, yeah,
That's
they're
great.
wonderful.
Uh, and actually, you know, there's talk. This is some kind of tribute to you and I guess what you created. But there's now suddenly talk of NBC creating a new version of Xena Warrior Princess.
Yes.
You probably
So
can't
I'm
comment on
going,
that.
right. I can't, I can only say what I have said. People don't believe me, but I would say I have not received one call to my agent regarding anything to do with this. Um, and I keep saying, I know nothing of this, and people disbelieving me. So I know that my husband has a meeting with NBC next week, but whether he finds a take that is something he wants to be part of producing, um, or not is a completely other matter. It's much harder to do a reboot of a much loved show than people think.
Yeah, I would think you may be ambivalent about it. In fact, I mean about the idea because there's always the danger that it won't live up to the original, right?
Right, and Rob has to, because of how much he puts into producing a series and storylines and things, he has to 100% believe in what he's doing, and that it'll live up to the legacy. He's not going to let down the fans, and that's a big ask for him. However, they do have the right to go off and make it with anybody else, and that will be the onus will be on them to live up to the dream, you know. And it's going to be hard to please those fans. They are rabid and wonderful and passionate about what this means to them in their lives, the female empowerment. Honestly, it was a crazy alchemy that came with that show in terms of what it inspired people to do in their own lives, which is why they're so attached to the show. Do you know what I mean? They sort of hold me responsible for some incredible positive change that they were able to make in their own lives. And I've always said, it ain't me, sister. You know, I didn't even write these words. I'm just the public face of a lot of people's hard work. But the magic happened in them. They took this sort of they inferred a message from the show that help springboard them out of a very difficult situation. So when I go to these conventions, there's a great deal of sexual abuse told to me, a great deal of stories of a past that is rooted in a great deal of trauma, and therefore they kind of hold me as responsible for the magic of their own ability to flee from that reality, into a better one.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, well, first of all, what it's like to be the star of a show that develops a cult following, but also who constitutes the cult. And I had some ideas, but I kind of thought maybe there's more than one constituency, in this group of intense followers. I mean, it's known as having been kind of iconic in terms of gay liberation. Didn't you have one of the first female kissing scenes prominent on TV?
Well, it was.
I mean, it was ambiguous. It wasn't explicitly lesbian, but it.
Oh, that's right. That's when it was sort of like what do you call it? When you bring somebody back to life after drowning. What do you call that?
Resuscitation.
It was almost like resuscitation, but of course it fell right into the sort of the lesbian dream for Xena and Gabrielle. And of course the writers and producers knew what they were doing by then, exploiting that kind of fan appeal. So yes, it did have that, but it was episode 8 in the first season where the Village Voice picked up Xena and pronounced it as a great lesbian role model, or gay role model even. And Renee and I were reading this on set going, oh my God, who would have thought? That's really, to us, it was a completely foreign concept. But to Rob, who was there at the very inception of the character, my husband, and to Liz Friedman, one of the writers, who was a lesbian woman, there was no surprise at all. Mm-hmm. So yes, it does have, so there is a gay constituent, there is a female gay constituent, a male gay constituent, there is people who have come from, it's people who feel marginalized in gross terms. When I go to a convention, they have, like I said, tales of great trauma in their past, and the show, they plucked out of the ether messages of courage and self-realization and self-respect and individual, the right to be an individual.
And does that part have to do with the fact that the character Xena had a checkered past? I mean, she was, she is presented to us as kind of a bad girl turned good girl or somebody who was not always on the side of good and feels she has to redeem herself.
That's the key word, is redemption. That there was never going to be true redemption for her, and so that's part of it. Is part of it is being Xena, the stranger. Do you know what I mean? She's the stranger. She is never going to feel that she fits in. She's never going to settle down with a picket fence, and Gabrielle and open a burrito store, and I think that's how many of these people feel when they're growing up. They feel like outsiders. They're not acceptable to their families, and that was part of Gabrielle's history. And it was put right in the first episode. Renee and I were oblivious to it. But she said, Xena, I'm not the little girl my parents want me to be. Take me with you. Mm-hmm. And that was there was a rush of lesbian recognition from the, in that moment.
Huh. Well, it must, having this kind of effect on people, the effect that you and the show have had, must give your life some meaning. And I say that not just because this is Meaning of Life TV, so it's the kind of thing I would say, but also because, you and I had an exchange on Twitter, a direct message exchange, and you were kind of a little reluctant to have this conversation. And it's very gracious of you to do it. But what you said was, you weren't, I said, we could talk about what gives your life meaning or something. And you said something to the effect that, sometimes you wonder whether you're really kidding yourself about meaning and whether you just live for sensation. And I couldn't tell if you were just kidding. I don't think you were entirely kidding, were you?
No, I'm only ever half kidding. No, I think that for me, that kind of meaning is very passive. That's what is, I have been gifted that is completely accidental, that I became Xena and not somebody else, and that it became a success and was so loved. So if it had meaning, it's completely accidental. It was not my doing. I just think I'm really lucky. I just got the gig. Do you know what I mean? I did it with all my heart, and it was really bloody hard. Like physically, I'm not a sporting person. I've never been athletic. It was
is that
really,
right?
really.
Did you have to
No,
learn to
really
ride a
hard.
horse?
I had learned to ride. I rode as a kid.
Okay.
But I was I look back and I go, oh my God, I was so courageous. Like I was foolhardy. If they said, okay, so you're going to jump on the horse and you run and jump over those flaming bloody logs, and it's like, okay, I'll do it. I was a moron. I never gave a thought because I was so hungry and I was a kid from the bottom of the world, and this was your big chance, and this is just naturally what happens when you are given the opportunity to be in an American show. You become a successful actress, So, and the cost is to what I call sticking to the knitting, and that means doing the daily grind, doing the fights, even though, oh my God, I hated them. I hate
Did
fights.
you?
I hate to this day. I hate that stuff.
What is it you hate about it?
Well, I hated getting punched for 2 years.
I assume they didn't really punch you, but I guess sometimes it's hard to control.
No, sometimes I got punched because I was in the wrong place. Like I'd look the wrong way. My nickname at school was Unco for uncoordinated. It was a joke, it's that cosmic jest. Let's make the most clumsy person we know Xena and put her on an action show. I wanted to do bloody Shakespeare. I wanted to do Hedda Gabler. And I am cast as a female action hole. WTF. So anyway, the fact that other people have derived meaning from my frivolous labors is astonishing and delightful, and kind of, I guess if I believed in divinity, I'd say divinely inspired. But it is a divine comedy, that I didn't plan any of that. And yet I dreamed it. I did. I dreamed that it was possible, because if you haven't got a dream, as Bloody Mary said, then how are you going to make a dream come true?
You mean you dreamed it in a general way that I can be a success in acting?
Yeah. I mean, I come from New Zealand. I come from the middle of the most middle class suburbs in a society at the bottom of the world. Nobody had ever been an actor in my family, but my parents never said I couldn't. In fact, my dad said I could be anything I want. He told me that I could bend spoons with my mind like Uri Geller if I tried, and I've never succeeded in that.
Did he mean that literally, or that was kind of?
He knew that there was more to the world than even his beloved Catholic Church said. So it gave me permission to. My dad was hugely influential on me, actually.
But you've left the Catholic Church part behind.
Yeah, I have. Though I really dig this Pope. Yeah, I can't subscribe to any organization that condones and covers up the systematic sexual abuse of children. I mean, that right there, that's a total deal breaker for me, right? That's tremendously upsetting. And also, you look back at the history of it, and oh my God, your book The Evolution of God.
Oh.
Really? I mean, the more you study about and the more you read about these things, you go, it's really hard to believe in a book that is being fossilized.
Oh, I didn't know you'd read that.
Why are you sorry? Are you sorry that you read it? I'm only halfway through it.
Oh well, I hope
pretty bloody hard to read.
I'm actually. I actually do think that there's reason to believe that there's, in some sense, a larger purpose here. But that's not the same as saying that you believe in the God of any particular tradition. What does that expression on your face mean? Are you?
What does that mean? I would never gainsay anything you said, actually, because you've thought about things a lot more than me, but I'm not sure. I can't see that there is intelligent design.
Oh, well, I definitely would reject that specific phrase, which is associated with a specific claim about evolution, that evolution gets some kind of push from something invisible or some kind of divine force. No, I totally don't buy that. Evolution is just natural selection, period. And I think the interesting question is whether ultimately this was all set in motion, including natural selection, for some end, which is not necessarily a good end or a bad end, but an end. Anyway, that's another. I didn't really plan to talk about.
Because you can talk about that and then you go, yeah, but isn't the sun going to like explode and swallow us up or something? And, it's like, why? Yeah, that is a much bigger kind of amorphous discussion.
You mean don't horrible things happen? Or isn't the whole thing going to get blown?
Ultimately, we all die.
Well, yeah, but like maybe it's not about us. I didn't say the higher purpose was to make Lucy Lawless happy or Bob happy or anything. Now, I don't even know this good. If it is good, you would think that in the long run, sentient life has to get something out of it, broadly speaking.
But isn't that just... You're saying that sentience demands meaning rather than there is meaning before there is sentience.
Well, I think sentience... Well, go ahead.
No, because I was... if I remember rightly from the end of... you talk about sentience and meaning being inextricably linked.
Yeah.
But it's that sentience demands or must create meaning, otherwise... it won't bother to evolve culturally or keep having babies. I mean, isn't that just part of, it's another strategy, isn't it? Just to keep spitting out babies is to feel like we should all have some sort of meaning.
Well, the specific feelings like lust and love can certainly be explained that way, I think. But the larger question of like, why does it feel like anything at all, I think is a harder one. Mm-hmm. Why are there feelings at all? And I mean, the main thing I'd say about meaning is sentience gives rise to meaning. I mean, I think we actually all believe that. I mean, if you ask anyone to do the thought experiment, like say, okay, is it bad to cause pain to a person? And they say yes. And you say, well, what if it turned out this person was just a robot that had no feelings? Would it be so bad to destroy the robot then? And they'd say, oh, well, that's another question, maybe not. And what they're saying is, systems with sentience, systems capable of feeling pleasure and pain and so on, have moral meaning in some sense. You can't just, casually abuse them and say that has no moral consequences. So I just think we all kind of agree that sentience, we don't think about it, but I think we all agree that sentience kind of gives life meaning. You know what I mean? The fact that we are all capable of feeling better or worse is what would life
propels us forwards.
It does.
I mean, I just think that. See, I wrote down a question. I had some questions for you, actually, Bob.
Whoa! I'm not.
Yes.
I don't think I granted you permission to ask me questions, but
okay, so you can cut this shit out. But I just want to ask. So, you talked about the invisible brain.
Do I?
And
you meaning all of human society, the kind of superorganism?
Yeah.
Maybe that. Yeah.
Sort of a. That's right. Are you talking about it as just a superorganism or this sort of consciousness that we all share because we all read the same the newspapers?
What book are you looking at? Is that the ever?
Well, I'm just looking at my own. This is my little calendar actually.
I see.
My calendar always has just Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday because I never know what date it is, so it's irrelevant to me. I can never remember. But I wrote down a little question. This is from.
I think
from non-zero.
Wow, I didn't realize this was going to be. I mean, honestly, this is going to now seem like a self-serving conversation I set up, but I didn't.
Nobody thinks that. Stop it. Okay, so this is what I wrote down. The invisible brain doesn't give a shit about our survival. Does the invisible brain include culture or merely behavior curbing strategies like shame, guilt, fear, etc.?
Well, the first thing, does the invisible brain... So if that's from non-zero, I mean, I'm talking about what I mean is that society is a huge information processing system that functions like a large brain, even though the tendrils are not as visible, you know, the little synapses or whatever. It's not as vividly a brain as like a real brain, because, I mean, especially when you're sending the messages like electronically over the air, it just looks like a bunch of people running around.
Right? Yeah.
But I'm saying, so it's invisible in that sense. But I mean, an interesting thing to me is, yes, that through human history, more and more, you get more complex social brains, until now we are on the point where we're on the verge of having, in some ways, a giant global brain. I mean, that's what, you know, and this is, you know, my own argument in that book was that this is kind of built into the basic dynamics of technological evolution. It seems like there was no escaping humanity building this huge brain.
Right.
So there was a kind of a direction to it. And that doesn't like prove that there's some larger purpose, but it's kind of consistent with the hypothesis of purpose. The system seems to be heading somewhere systematically.
Yeah. I loved what you wrote in that book. It slightly anesthetized me, which troubles me, because it made me go, oh, fuck, maybe I shouldn't bother railing against right-wing or economically right-wing politicians who are changing laws, you know, holding up some rainbow-colored puppet of, ooh, let's let gay people get married, and then yanking your civil rights in some other direction while everybody's not looking. So, you know, there was a time where I'd be angry, and then I read that book and it's like, oh shit, this is just all part of it. And I can continue to try to be effective with less anger, but you slightly anesthetized me.
I can help. Go ahead.
Yeah,
but I can pull you out of your lethargy and ennui and despondency.
Okay. Yes. You know what? Maybe you're responsible for my ennui. I'm going to blame you. No. What was my question about what you were just saying? I don't know. That book kind of did calm me down, and I understand that if we are moving towards a global thing, but this lag, and I don't know if it fits in with a cultural lag, but if we're so freaking smart and we're all sharing data, and the science is unequivocal, and newspapers are no longer denying that climate change is real, how come we're not able to? How come nobody in the suburb gives a shit? This bothers me because I live in the suburbs. I love these people, but god damn, they're so busy, all they can think about is the mortgage and their children, and they do not relate to 30 years down the track, which is still their children.
Yeah.
And I'm lost. I don't know what to do.
Yeah, I live in the suburbs, and what bothers me is the leaf blowers, but that's a whole nother subject. You, on the issues you raise are actually more important. I mean, first, can I step back and solve your spiritual crisis before you sink deeper into it? If I caused it, I think the least I can do is cure you. Okay, here's the thing.
Good luck. Yeah.
Here's the thing. Yes, the system has inexorably headed toward, roughly speaking, toward where we are now. And maybe it's true that, you know, if any given person had died in the past, any given person we think of as significant, you know, technologically, politically, we'd be in roughly where we are today. But I still think the outcome is really in doubt. I mean, we do have the capacity to blow up the whole system in various ways. And it seems to me that we're on the verge of doing it. I mean, I may not be worried about exactly the perils that you are most worried about. There are different things to worry about that could ruin the whole experiment. But I do think that it's going to take the concerted action of people of, you know, goodwill to save the thing, maybe. And I mean that. So I think, you know, we're living in a time when, in a way, life has maybe more meaning than ever. You know, it seems like we're at some kind of culmination almost, in the sense that we are on the verge of globalization. I mean, globalization has downside, but I mean, we're on the verge of having a global community. Let me put it that way.
Yes.
Where we could really conceivably put an end to war and stuff and start working constructively on things and thinking about the future and that would be a first because it's never really happened. But, the same things that have haunted humanity throughout its existence, like tribalism and hatred, ethnic hatreds, greed, short-sightedness, lust for power, and so on, I think really imperil the system. And so I don't think the outcome is predetermined at all. I mean, so I think now more than ever, if you're an activist, you're doing God's work, so to speak. Does that help? You don't seem. I don't seem to have infused you with energy and enthusiasm.
Oh no, they're big questions. What I did like in that, something that I took which calmed me down in a way that I think is quite helpful is trade as a way of averting war. People rarely make war on people with whom they trade,
right.
or, countries. So that made me feel like, this globalization and we've got a big conversation going on right now about the TPPA,
right.
which is, the Trans-Pacific Partnership Alliance and agreement, and whether that destroys sovereignty. And I thought it was very helpful to me to think of, like the EU, that the diversity and the identity of our, of ancient, what would you call it? You still have dialects, you still have cultural distinctions and customs and everything which are endemic to each area. So that isn't lost when you get a larger governing body. So that was a nice point to make. Anyway, I'm less afraid of things that used to. I guess I'm one of those chaos, those people who fear the chaos or the too much order.
Yeah, well, both things are kind of things worth fearing, I think. I mean, there is, it isn't. I don't think it's crazy to worry that we're being too drawn into a giant machine. And the other thing I'd say is, I mean, globalization, I certainly have emphasized that trade has its virtues, including pacifying ones. But at the same time, globalization cannot be counted on to bring justice. And, if there isn't a certain kind of minimum of justice, then that in turn imperils the whole system. So even in the name of enlightened self-interest, you would want to work on behalf of, even rich, powerful people should want to work on behalf of justice in the name of enlightened self-interest, I think. But now your activism is focused on environmental stuff, right? Mainly?
Specifically climate change. I work for Children's Hospital and in New Zealand, done literacy and gay rights and all that sort of stuff. But, you don't want to spread yourself too thin. And I have been very concerned because, for some reason this computer has started. Go to sleep now. Go to sleep, please. Jeez, why won't it go to sleep?
I don't know, but this is very dynamic TV we're seeing right now.
You feeling sick? Are you feeling sick?
That's a little queasy. Okay. Stability. Up.
No, my husband's. I'm sitting in my husband's office because it's the quietest place in the house, and for some reason his computer is getting cross with me for leaning on its.
Well, I see he's got a nice globe on the top of his shelf there, which is certainly appropriate. It seems like planet Earth, is it?
Yeah. Look, I thought in your old room where you do blogging hits from, it would look like we're sitting next to each other if I had this in the background. It would just look like we're in the same room.
Yeah, I'm sorry I didn't manage to put any books on the shelf.
You've got to write some. Hey, what are you writing at the moment?
Oh, I just finished it. Well, I wish I'd finished. I sent to my editor a book on Buddhist meditation.
I have a friend who did your course actually online.
What's that?
I have a friend who did your course. Must have been an online course.
It was on Coursera, and it's gonna actually open up again soon. The book is, broadly speaking, like the course. So your friend doesn't have to buy the book. Your friend will be happy.
It'll be a relief.
Yeah.
Hey, okay, can I ask another question?
Sure.
Are you one of those people who sleeps 5 hours a night?
No, I'm one of those people who sleeps 6.5 hours a night. Why do you ask?
Because you cannot possibly be so productive and research these things and talk to all the people you must have to talk to if you are in need of a good 8 or 9 hours.
You know what the key to that is? You know what the key to writing long
Meditation.
books is? Write very few of them. Very few. If you take into account my rate of output, I think you'll be less in awe of my productivity by a good measure.
No. But no, there's articles, there's, essays, everything.
Well, I don't want to get into self-pity mode, but I'm glad.
Oh no, let's see you. I want to see that. I want to see Bob Wright pity himself.
Oh, I do that all the time. I just do it off camera. I do some of it on camera, but this is not what our viewers are paying to see. My self-pity. They're not paying anything to see anything. But so back to this question, though. Do you really seriously worry that, like, really your life doesn't have meaning and it's only all you are is a sensation seeker? Or did I misunderstand that concern?
No, I don't worry about it. I just, at this moment, feel that that's the case. I don't worry about it. When I'm in New Zealand and I'm not particularly stimulated. For example, I've just come back from northern Louisiana. I've been living in Shreveport, which was so interesting. For me, a liberal, eco-activist,
Cajun country,
gay rights. I don't even know if it's Cajun, to be honest. So I didn't really meet too many Cajuns.
Yeah, sure. Cajuns are it's a subculture that you wouldn't find much of in Shreveport itself. I mean, true Cajuns, I can't understand what they're saying. When I was a kid, I sat on a bus next to a Cajun. I literally couldn't understand what they were saying. It was a dialect that bordered on, for me, unintelligible. But anyway, what did you learn in Louisiana?
So I was shooting a TV show that was a very demanding show. I had a great deal of dialogue, etc.
Is this the Evil Dead thing, or is that something else?
No. This is called Salem. It's something for WGNA. Mm-hmm. Anyway, I in my spare time, because I didn't know anybody, I would go to the courthouse and watch the murder trials. By the way, which take like 1 week to complete, including jury selection. It's like it's Napoleonic code there, or something like that.
Oh,
so
right.
They don't bugger around with what your intentions were, what was in this guy's mind. The fact that you killed him is enough. Damn, bam. And what's more, I was in Caddo Parish, where more people are sentenced to death than any other part of America. So that puts it pretty, far up there in the world of executions. So I was in this place, and I got to know the judges and watch the juries, and you get a sense of a community when you're living there. I was super stimulated. And I'd go off on crawfish boils, and got to know a bunch of hillbillies, would throw these big hootenannies. I had the best time ever. 7 months flew like 7 weeks. And I got back to New Zealand, and everything was known to me. I was, after the high of being on that job with so much stimulation, I just went down into a real slump, which I've recently come out of. I know not how, but the veil lifted, So, so while I'm here, I keep myself busy. I'm doing 3 languages at the moment, and brushing up on things that I studied at school and university 30 years ago.
What languages?
And French, German, and Italian. Nothing too exotic.
Nothing too fancy.
I'm nothing too fancy, but I love them, and they thrill me. And I realize this is what people get out of sport: is this thrill that I get out of languages. It's kind of code breaking in a way. This is for me, the excitement. So
that's
yes,
a form
I'm
of
filling
sensation
myself
seeking.
Yeah.
Learning languages. But see, everything is sensations. All the things we say give meaning to life. They give you a kind of sensation, right? And the question
like
is...
an overview. It gives meaning to life as something, it's sort of a retrospective endowment, isn't it? When you say, oh, there's meaning to life. I'm relying on that. I'm hoping that somebody goes, wow, her life had real meaning. Because I tell you what, from where I sit, it's just a wobbly ride on a little boat on an ocean.
Yeah, the phrase, count no man happy until he's dead. Have you ever heard that?
No.
But that comes from a Greek expression that apparently actually means something a little different, and it's more like what you said. Do not, you can't judge the quality of a person's life until they're dead. But because I guess like maybe they'll screw it up at any point, regardless of how good things are. I'm not sure exactly, but so you're in a post Louisiana.
I turned Shreveport, Louisiana into heaven on earth. That was heaven on earth. And then I come back to one of the most stunning cities in the world with my beautiful family and my beautiful animal, my home. And I was like, I was struck by ennui. And that was purely about sensation. And perhaps it was a bit of a drug. Maybe it was the excitement of so much stimulus, and then the lack of it was a real come down period of a couple of months, 2 or 3 months for me.
Yeah, well, that's kind of life in general, isn't it? I mean, after you quit doing Xena, wasn't there like a letdown? Or of course, Xena's kind of different because there has been this vibrant fan base that.
No, but from my perspective as the person playing the role, I went through many ups and downs with that, and if it had gone a 7th season, I would have had. I mean, I was having substantial therapy to cope with the job by season 6.
Just the sheer difficulty of the job.
Just the I think season 4 was really hard, and then season 6, at some point you go, I give away my thoughts that I need to have a social life. I give away, these are my family now. This schedule is mine. I will not be told, I cannot choose what to wear, what to say, what to eat, when to eat. It is all prescribed. And that is, you must surrender to that when you are working on a 2-hand or a show like Xena, where there's no days off. Forget about it. So in order to survive, you must surrender to the schedule. And then you get, it's that old cycle of romance, disillusionment, joy, romance, disillusionment, joy. It can happen over a course of minutes. It can happen over hours, weeks, years. So once you surrender after the disillusionment of, holy shit, I'm going to lose my mind about the schedule, and you surrender to it, and then comes joy. But eventually that cycle comes around again and again and again. And you have to develop new skills to cope with the challenges. Like in season 4, I really had to get some therapy because I didn't know how to make myself happy anymore. I had run out of skills. The surrender wasn't working anymore. So I did go and see a shrink, and I can't remember what happened there, but that was good. I did things like Tony Robbins courses.
Oh, did you?
All this stuff. Oh, yeah.
You ever met Tony Robbins?
No, I've seen him on a thing, but no, I haven't.
Yeah. He's intense. Did that work for a while?
Yeah, for a while. Well, he did one good thing, and one thing which I've often used, again, he talked about the 6 human needs and said that he was in the shower one day and he thought, how come all these people all over the world, different socioeconomic backgrounds, different cultures, different everything, have the same problems? And he was thinking about the human needs, and he thought, hey, lightning bolt, perhaps it's that they are in conflict. And so the 6 human needs, as he boiled them down in gross terms, were the need for security, for instance, to know that your home is going to be there but not exploded and your children will be safe. We also have the need for insecurity in the form of change and evolution, all this sort of stuff, excitement. We have a need to belong to the group, to society, to be acceptable. We also have a need to stand apart and be held up for certain things that we do. So those 2 things are in conflict. And the other ones are not so much in conflict. It was the need for a higher purpose. And the other one was the need for connection to society. I think I'm getting those right. I haven't thought about that in a really long time. But that has often been useful to me to think, when I'm feeling a bit miserable, it was one of those things that's out of balance. Don't worry about it. It'll all come, it will rebalance itself in time. So that worked for a little while, and then in season 6, it was just I just needed to stop doing the job, which it did end there at season 6, and so I could go off and have another baby and get on with life, a freer life.
So Tony Robbins got you through season 5.
I can't remember.
Got you through one of the seasons.
Season 4. It might have been season 4. Yeah, I'd say that. But yeah.
So, are you a little bit of a seeker?
Well, I know I'm a pattern seeker.
A pattern.
I'm always looking at patterns. Perhaps that's why I like languages. There's patterns, and then breaks in the pattern. And so when I am behaving in a certain way, whereas I'm always looking for the pattern. And
you mean you're trying to understand the patterns in yourself and in your own behavior, or? Yeah,
or society. You know, I know that there's a pattern. I don't know why I say that, but that's just.
Well, that's. I mean, in a way, that's what we do. I mean, we look for structure and pattern and rules that explain things. I mean, social scientists look for patterns in society that maybe other people aren't seeing.
Statisticians, that's right.
So that's reasonable enough. But, I mean, is this part of the drive that accounts for your success? Don't mean to make you uncomfortable. I don't mean to make you do that with your eyes, but...
Well, I'm thinking, no, I don't think. I think it's, well, perhaps in a subtler way, because I am pretty resourceful at making myself happy. You know, like I refuse to stay in a hole. That's not an option. Because I've always known from a young age that I was going to die. Because I think I've written this to the newspaper once. I was writing a column for the New Zealand Herald for a short time. And I was walking home from school on my own, and I was about 8 or 9 years old, and I was saying my Hail Marys because I was raised very, very Catholic, and the best use of your spare time is to say a rosary. You know, don't think, don't read, don't see, just say the rosary. Okay, so I was going, Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord is with thee, blessed art thou amongst all women, and blessed is the fruit of thy womb, Jesus. Bow your head on Jesus. Holy Mary, Mother of God, pray for us sinners, now and at the hour of our death. Amen. Now and at the hour of our death. At the hour of death, I'm going to die, but I'm 9 years old. So in that moment, and I remember where I was on the street in Mount Albert, Auckland, New Zealand, when I realized I was going to die. And I was in a colossal hurry from then on. And my teachers were always saying, you know, why are you rushing around, Lucy Ryan? You're always rushing. Oh, am I? Thanks for noticing. But I've always been in a little bit of a rush.
Yeah, mortality does put a little wind at your back in a certain sense. And it's not an altogether comfortable feeling. But I know that feeling.
I don't know if I answered your question, though, something about success.
Well,
you know what? Here's my success is that I'm really good at making myself happy. If I'm in a situation I can do nothing about, for instance, whatever job I'm now doing is my new favorite thing. Like and it's genuine. Like I'm loving it. When I was doing my community service for a protest, so I had got 120 hours of community service, I went and worked in an old folks home. And the lady I'm meeting today is from the old folks home. And it was my new favorite thing. I was like, God, if I have a talent at all, it's for balloon tennis. You know, this is truly what I'm good at, is like working with old people. I was playing my ukulele.
And so and you're doing some of that now. So today you're going to go do what? This is, when you first said before we started taping that you had to, pick up some elderly person or something, I assumed it was a member of the family or something, but it's not. This is your volunteer work.
All kind of. She used to live next door to me, and I bought her a house when her husband died. My parents now live there, and she doesn't have anybody else, so I take her to the movies once a week or do something when I'm in town. And she's kind of fun. She's an interesting woman.
Mm-hmm. But that gives you meaning. Oh, come on, admit it.
You keep talking about this meaning thing like it's, no, connection is a necessary part of life. It makes your life, I suppose that's what you call meaning. Worth. I call it worth. It makes it worth my time here to be connected to this woman. But it's a much more selfish point of view from me. It's like, I'm doing this for me. I like the sensation of this.
Well,
I like company.
Everyone's doing that. Buddhist monks, the truth is that being a Buddhist monk makes them feel better than the alternative.
That's right.
So yeah. I think, and that's why when you said this thing on, when we were communicating on Twitter about, well, maybe all there is sensation seeking, I was thinking, well, everything we describe as meaningful in life gives you a kind of sensation, and we make judgments about what sensations and what sources of certain sensations qualify as meaningful, right?
Right, because they have different qualities. You just said qualify. That there is high grade sensation like love and tenderness, and then there's slightly, I would say, lower grade sensations like excitement, and sometimes you trade one for the other, but you got to have a little bit of both.
But is the flip side of your being able to get excited about every new activity that then you are going to tire of any given activity and have to leave it behind?
Well, I never think about that in the moment because I am quite an in the moment person, which is why I guess I showed you this. Like, I cannot tell you what date it is. It must be the 14th because we talked about the 14th, right? Like I have
let me check. I'm seeing 13. But, you're in New Zealand. Oh, yeah, it's the 14th.
So that's the only way I know it's the 14th is because I have an eidetic memory of your text saying let's do it the 14th, right? So I don't know what happened last week, and I can't tell you beyond Saturday what is going on in my life, and that's just a normal state of being for me, that I'm not very good with time. But I'm sure, and when I'm here, I'm really here.
But that's because you're so absorbed in the moment that you're not aware of the time?
I don't know. I think that's how it evinces itself in my life, that it's like I'm fully, I'm fully excited.
Well, that's great.
About what I'm doing now.
That's great.
Or fully bummed out or whatever. But yeah, labile. I'm labile.
So you don't need any help. You don't need Tony Robbins, man. Tony Robbins needs you.
Dude, I don't know what Tony Robbins needs. Probably not very much. He's quite wealthy, I believe. But he's doing fine without me. And I'm doing fine even without him. But at that time, that was useful.
Yeah.
And I won't deny it. Yeah.
So I think I started this conversation thinking maybe we needed to convince you that your life had meaning, but now I think that was a delusion on my part. and your life is full of meaning and you know it. And
well, I guess we're semantics, isn't it? What do you call meaning and what do I call meaning? Meaning to me is some sort of an overarching view of or a prescribed direction.
A prescribed direction.
A direction, meaning is something going forward, like I have to slave to this rule or something, and I don't have one of those. I'm completely fluid. I am the boat on the ocean.
Oh, I see. Well, a lot of people describe that as the ultimate in spiritual fulfillment. A liberation, a kind of effortless and flow that is nonetheless meaningful for that, and maybe all the more meaningful for that.
Okay, then how come I'm such a bitch?
I was going to ask you the same question. Actually, I wasn't. I don't know you well enough. This is the first I've heard of you being a bitch. But by the way, I was reprimanded by my daughter the other day I was told that's a sexist term. Bitch.
Well, it is if you go, hey, bitches, which, I think that is. But bitch, oh shit. Who
as I explained, but well, never mind. I just said, I use equally offensive terms to describe men. I'm an equal opportunity offender. Anyway, I don't commonly use that term. I won't get into the context of this.
I kind of want the context of that conversation.
I kind of don't want to give it to you. I think we'll change the subject now. Whoops. It's kind of like the actor-actress question. I heard you refer to yourself as an actress, so that's like okay to do. I was afraid to do that, to call you an actress. I thought that might identify me as a reactionary.
Oh my God, people are still worrying about that stuff, are they?
Yeah, yeah. Well, I worry that they're worrying about it. I don't know if they are.
Yeah, yeah. Best to assume they're so busy worrying about what you're thinking of them.
Hey, that's a good way to think of it. They should be worried. Right?
It's like, call off the thought police. I remember my mother told me that when I was trying to like second guess what everybody else was thinking. And she was like, call off the thought police. And that's been really useful.
Oh, that's great.
She said, so people are so busy worrying what everybody thinks of them. They're really not thinking about you.
I mean, they should live in fear of our judgment, right? Not the other way around.
You're terrible, Muriel.
No, that's my new way of looking at it, I think. Because it is so paralyzing. Worrying what people think about, that has eaten up so much of my life. I hate it.
Me too. You know what? At 3 a.m, I would often think back to things that happened, I'm not kidding, 20 or 30 years ago. Yeah. And actually it was the moral animal, which made me realize that all this sort of shame that I am conjuring, this guilt, this shame that I'm conjuring, was merely an evolutionarily stabilizing strategy to make me learn a lesson. So just go, lesson learned, next thought.
If you can do that, it's great.
This is how helpful you have been to me. That's why I really wanted to interview you, because shit, man, those books are really, really impactful. And thank you for collating so much data of you've taken all the great thinkers, or many great thinkers, and synthesized into something that people like me can understand and really use in a very on a daily basis. It's really textbooks for life. Thank you.
Well, it's nice of you to say that. And again, because I do worry what people think of me, I do worry that they'll think I set this up as a self-serving conversation. But I honestly didn't know you had read these.
If you cut that out, I'm going to bloody lambaste you. Don't cut it out. It's good. I'm interviewing you.
I've always wanted to get to a point where I would be worthy of being interviewed. It's never happened. I mean, it happens with individual books. It happens with individual books. Like, okay, you've got a book out, so you can like go on Charlie Rose. But it's like but then Charlie Rose has this whole like second kind of guest that's just inherently worthy of being on a show, whether they've written a book recently. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I've always thought it would be great to be one of those.
You want to be the second guy.
Yeah.
But hang on, I think I heard about you. You must have spoken at TED, right?
I did do.
TED? Yeah. So I heard about you before I even read your books from a guy at TED Med, which is the medical version of TED, who he was like, oh, you've got to read this book, Non-Zero, or you were speaking about non-zero sumness, right?
Right. Yeah.
Right. That was the story I heard. So people are chatting, and it's really great. My favorite has to be The Moral Animal, though. I think everybody needs to read that, and they should be teaching this stuff in schools about evolutionary psychology.
More and more they are. I think that perspective is kind of carrying the day, slowly.
Right. Geez, Louise, it would have been so helpful. It undercuts a lot of psychiatry, or psychology anyway, and all of religion, I'm afraid. And well, I mean, you might be a Buddhist meditation specialist, but I mean that's a choice.
Yeah, apparently you're not yet signing on to my cult.
Your course.
Yeah.
I'm not signing on to your cult, but do you know what I mean? I think is that people meditate in different ways, and that I betcha. It's a different thought.
It sounds all the more interesting if you're reluctant to express it. That's the best kind of thought.
Okay, well, I read a short story when I was a kid, and it was about an old Maori woman who had raised the grandchildren, as often happens in old cultures. The grandparent does the raising, and
these are Maoris. These are the indigenous people of New Zealand.
New Zealand,
right?
Maori, yeah, and how in as she was on her deathbed, she went back to the old ways and was calling out Maori, awe, awe, and she just reverted to her earliest patterning. And I bet I do too. But I can say the Hail Mary to this day, even though I don't subscribe to any of that stuff anymore. And it has the meditational powers of any sort of Vedic.
So do you do it sometimes for that?
I think I have on occasion because it's a way to go to sleep, but now I just listen to stories.
Yeah. Well, it seems to work for you. Something seems to be working for you.
Actually, but that's not my meditation. My meditation is that I don't have to be necessarily still and quiet, but doing something that is repetitive. I'm really good at doing like brainless activities for a long period of time, like picking up litter or all that kind of dumb stuff is like suits me down to the ground. Maybe that's my meditation.
Well, that is meditative, I think, I mean, you know, there are things like walking meditation where just the sheer rhythm, just focusing on the most pedestrian, well, no pun intended, aspects of it. You know, the foot making contact with the ground and so on. That is it, because it pulls you out of your, you know, the kind of monkey mind thing. So.
Yeah, the monkey mind.
So, you know, this has been great. It's been a little more flattering than I had expected, but I like flattery. Flattery feels good. And
so give it a go. Try it. Try it on for size.
I'm warming up to it. I'm thinking maybe we could do daily sessions for several years.
All right.
And you can just say nice things.
I'd be teaching. I'm going to run out. I'm going to run out shortly. Except, okay, so Our Man in Tehran was I really enjoyed that. I really enjoyed that.
Wait, you enjoyed
How did you
what?
feel about Our Man in Tehran? How did you feel about the movie Argo?
I have not seen it. I'm a little behind on a lot of video entertainment stuff. Like I said, I'm only on season 3 of Parks and Rec.
Yeah.
What do you recommend?
Well,
what do you recommend in the way of politically significant?
Look, I really liked Argo as an adaptation of your book. I thought it was quite good. You know, it's entertainment. Well, yeah, it might as well be.
Okay.
It's entertainment, so they've probably squished characters together and tarted them up. What's more, they made a documentary about that was just on Sky TV in New Zealand recently. It was the same story, but now it's like CIA declassified, and it's basically your book. Just saying, it's that story. I'm sure they read it and used it.
Well, I'll have to watch this stuff to get
You're
some
not going to
sense.
watch it. You're not going to watch it because you're busy talking about Syria and Iraq and Iran.
Oh, don't get me started.
Arms negotiations.
See, this is the final thing I want to touch on. Is I do have a little bit of a. You are like a lot of progressives, very much of an environmental activist. And that's totally worthy and totally worth freaking out over. But I don't see as much activism as I would like on the kind of war and peace front, on the foreign policy front generally. I mean, it seems to me American foreign policy is like ill-advised. And there's not much in the way of grassroots progressive activism. In part because there's no simple target like the Vietnam War. There's no single like war in the old-fashioned sense to protest against. But it seems like almost the only progressive energy, well, for a while I would say it was environmentalism. Now, lately with Ferguson, you're seeing more and more on social justice, but it's not much foreign policy stuff. So maybe you can help me figure out what to do.
Xenophobia. Is it about that? And everybody's so anesthetized. Our bandwidth for giving a shit is so limited to college for our kids.
Right.
And these are not insignificant problems at all. I don't mean, but people just don't want to think about it. Everything's in the too hard basket. And perhaps there's so much information out there that it's easier to shut out all of it than to make a personal cause célèbre of any one thing. But, and maybe it's the Rupert Murdoch effect that people now see, like they've installed Donald Trump as kind of the it's all entertainment. And I mean, Murdoch's so right. It's about, for him, I'm sure it's about ratings and setting up Megyn Kelly as a bloody meat puppet. That's what they call actors in some circles. Mm-hmm. Setting her up as kind of a fall guy for his ratings winning ways, that people are tuning in because they know that it's like a Punch and Judy show.
It's getting weirder and weirder.
Yeah. So we're now seeing even elections and political debates as entertainment. Now that Jon Stewart's going, what are we going to do? We're going to now turn to Fox and be entertained, But it's tremendously cynical, isn't it?
Yeah. Now, the movie network is worth going back and watching if you haven't. I mean, it foresaw a lot of. It certainly foresaw all the kind of reality TV, tabloid TV stuff, and it's getting weirder and weirder. So we'll have to save the world.
You and me.
And that will give our lives meaning.
Connection. You know what it is? Perhaps we're so busy connecting to the Kardashians that we don't have room in our little hearts to connect to the kid next door who really needs saving from his father, because we're worrying about people we'll never meet, It
is, well, I mean, it's very much, it's those, it's certainly, instincts designed, impulses and feelings designed by natural selection to be deployed in real life situations that are drawing us into this virtual world of reality shows and fake people and stuff. Yeah. It's a redeployment of our emotions from actual human contact to
transference. You're right. Trump. Yeah. And it saves us. It's that television is the new opium of the masses, isn't it? Mm-hmm. It's pretty freaking amazing. Mm-hmm. And people eat that shit up, man. The lack of curiosity that I experience, even in people that I love, depresses the shit out of me. Mm-hmm. Lack of curiosity, all in the too hard basket.
But TV has had its virtues for your life.
Mustn't grumble. That's right. I'm part of the problem.
I wasn't going to point out that irony, but so will you at some point down the road come back and talk again? If
I ever have anything meaningful to say.
Yeah, well, you've done a good job so far.
I'm a big fan, but you know that.
You've been great, and so if my ego needs boosting,
I'm your guy.
You're the guy I'll call. Or if I just want to talk more about meaning and all the other stuff.
Okay.
All right. Well, thanks so much for taking the time. This is great. People can watch all kinds of stuff you're in.
Yeah, all kinds of stuff. Oh, you know what? I thought because I'm 47 now, I thought that my career would be kind of tailing off, but just lately, it's really escalated. It's so delightful. And I think delight, like romance, is one of those very special human experiences. You should celebrate it. If you experience delight in your day, give it a little oxygen. It's a fabulous thing. So anyway, yeah, I'm very delighted by the things I get to work on. And
yeah, I was delighted at age 47 too. Give it time. Give it a decade or so. Okay. Yeah. Well, thanks again, and I'm gonna take you up on your claim that you'll do this again sometime.
I love it.
Okay, take care. Bye-bye.